Oh my god. You're so awesome, Lawrence Lim.
She want me. She want me. She want me.
It's Lawrence Lim with the W.
This is the day that you will always remember as the day that you...
3 Italian nuns die and go to heaven. At the pearly gates, they are met by St. Peter. He says, "Sisters, you all led such exemplary lives that the Lord is granting you 6 months to go back to earth and be anyone you wish to be." The first nun says, "I want to be Sophia Loren." And poof, she's gone. The second says, "I want to be Madonna," and poof, she's gone. The third says, "I want to be Sarah Pipolini." St. Peter looks perplexed. "Who?" he asks. "Sarah Pipolini," replies the nun. St. Peter shakes his head and says, "I'm sorry, but that name just doesn't ring a bell." The nun then takes a newspaper out of her habit and hands it to St. Peter. St. Peter reads the paper and starts laughing. He hands it back to her and says, "No, sister. The paper says it was the Sahara pipeline that was laid by 1,400 men in 6 months."
Bubba, the redneck adventurer, decides to buy a hang glider. Eager to try it out, he takes it to the highest mountain point. After a strenuous climb, he reaches the summit and prepares for his maiden flight. Running toward the edge, he leaps and takes off into the wind. Meanwhile, Ma and Pa are relaxing on the porch swing, reminiscing about the good old days when Ma notices an enormous bird in the sky. It is the biggest bird she has ever seen. "Look at the size of that bird, Pa!" she exclaims. Pa straightens up, declaring, "Get me my gun, Ma!" Ma hurries into the house, returning with his pump shotgun. Pa takes careful aim and fires, with a series of shots echoing through the air. Bang, bang, bang! However, the colossal bird appears unaffected and continues to glide silently over the treetops. "I think you missed him, Pa," Ma observes. "Yeah," Pa replies. "But at least he let go of Bubba."
Many centuries ago, there was a significant decree made by the Pope that all Jews in Italy were required to convert to Catholicism or leave the country. This decree led to a major uproar within the Jewish community. In response to their outcry, the Pope proposed a unique solution, a religious debate. The terms were simple. If the Jewish community's representative won the debate, they could remain in Italy. If the Pope won, they would have to convert or leave. The Jewish community gathered to discuss this proposal and chose an elderly and wise rabbi to represent them. There was one issue, however. The rabbi spoke no Italian and the Pope spoke no Hebrew. To overcome this language barrier, they agreed to hold a silent debate. On the day of the debate, the Pope and the rabbi sat opposite each other. The Pope began by raising his hand and showing 3 fingers. The rabbi, after a brief moment of thought, looked back at him and raised 1 finger. Next, the Pope made a gesture, waving his finger around his head. The rabbi responded by pointing to the ground where he was seated. Then the Pope brought out a communion wafer and a chalice of wine. In response, the rabbi pulled out an apple. After this exchange, the Pope stood up, declaring himself defeated. He acknowledged that the rabbi was too clever, and therefore the Jews could stay in Italy. Later, the Pope met with his cardinals, who were curious about the debate's outcome. The Pope explained, "First, I held up 3 fingers to represent the Trinity." He responded by holding up a single finger to remind me there is only one God, common to both our beliefs. Then I waved my finger around to show that God is everywhere. He pointed to the ground to indicate that God is not in hell. Finally, I showed the wine and wafer to symbolize God's forgiveness for all sins. He showed an apple to remind me of the original sin. He bested me at every turn, and I could not continue. Meanwhile, the Jewish community was eager to know how the rabbi had won. They gathered around him, and someone asked him to explain. The rabbi shrugged and said, "I don't have a clue. First, he told me we had 3 days to get out of Italy. so I gave him the finger. Then he indicated that the entire country would be cleared of Jews, so I made it clear we were staying right here. And then someone from the crowd asked. The rabbi replied, "Who knows?" He took out his lunch, so I took out mine.
So Paddy is fitting a kitchen in a posh house when the woman asks him if he'd like something to drink. Paddy accepts, and soon after the woman brings him a mug of coffee. "Excellent coffee, to be sure," says Paddy. "Thank you," says the woman. "My husband brought it back from Brazil." "That's great," says Paddy, "and it's still warm as well."
One day, a little girl and a little boy were at the park with their pants pulled down. The little girl asked the little boy, "What is that?" And the little boy said, "I don't know." Then the little boy asked the little girl the same thing, and she said she didn't know. So that night, the little girl asked her mom, and her mom said, "That's your garage and you must not let any big trucks go in." Meanwhile, at the little boy's house, the little boy asked his dad what it was, and his dad said, "That's your big truck and you must not park it in any garage." The next day, the boy and the girl pulled their pants down again, but this time the girl went home with blood on her hand. Her mom screamed and asked why she had blood on her hand. The girl said, "The boy tried to put his big truck in my garage, so I pulled his two back tires off."
One day, Johnny's dad was just getting out of shower naked. Then Johnny looked down and said, "Dad, what's that hanging between your legs?" The dad replies, "Oh Johnny, that's my nerve." The next day, Johnny goes to school. In the class, he really needed to pee, so he said to the teacher, "Miss, I really need to go to the bathroom." "No, not yet. There's someone gone," says his teacher. Not able to hold the thing, Johnny walks to the garbage can and starts to pee. The teacher gets surprised and says, "Johnny, you have some nerve." Johnny says, "That's nothing. You should see my father's."
Mary was going to a dentist because she had been suffering from big pain for a couple of days already. She is terrified that it will hurt and says to the dentist, "I don't want to feel any pain, so please do anesthesia." The dentist agreed, and they proceed. While the dentist is working, he can hear the woman's phone ringing, but figures the woman is not able to speak at the moment and just ignores it. However, the phone keeps on ringing and ringing, so the dentist finally loses it and answers. "What? What? Who is this?" asks a man on the phone. The dentist asks, "Who is calling?" The man says, "I'm Mary's husband. But who are you and where is Mary?" The angry dentist says, "Listen, I will finish in a couple of minutes. Let her spit it out, and she will then call you back."